Hi, Georgia. Thank you so much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the other side of the screen today. And if you don't mind introducing yourself to our viewers, please.
Thanks, Chamonix. My name is Giorgia Johnson. I'm a councillor at the City of Bayswater and I was elected in 2017.
So you've been on board for 3 years. So you're up for election again next October?
Maybe it becomes that, but yeah, this is my first term, or my second council too.
Your second council? That's interesting. So which other council were you at before?
Oh, I mean in terms of council terms. So, you know, we had council elections last year, so my second.
Oh, sorry, I see. Okay, yes. So yes, it's interesting once you go through that first cycle, shall I say, and then you come back if you decide to run again and you're re-elected to see how things change, because the dynamic, every time you get new people on board, the dynamic changes on council, which makes it interesting.
Yeah, certainly it did already after the 2018 elections, 2019 elections. Yeah, sorry, I know, sorry.
It's so difficult to keep track of time with COVID because, yeah.
I don't know what, yes, you're right. We're in a time shifted year this year.
It does. And Georgia, do you do anything else other than being a councillor, or is that your full-time gig?
Sure. No, it's not my full-time gig, and I don't think it is full-time gig for many women and for many councillors either. When I started on council, I was running a business. I had a cafe and it was a very full-time role. And so I was doing council on top of that. I closed that last year, and this year I've been studying, doing some other sort of short-term contract work as well. I'm currently working in an organisation, an arts organisation.
And how do you find balancing time working and being a councillor?
You know, our mayor describes councillors being the gap filler of hobbies. It just takes up every waking moment, which it does. It can be as much or as little extra time as you've got, and it will take all of it. You know, when I was first elected, in terms of, you know, managing that time, when I was first elected to council, I was involved in some other community groups, as many of us are, and I did step down from all of those roles. So lots of, you know, different smaller roles, and I stepped down from all of those to replace that with the councillor role.
And by taking on the councillor role, you've taken on so many other roles as well.
Well, that's right. That's right. I mean, yeah, you know, not just the meetings and, you know, other community events and subcommittees and external committees. Also our regional council, so a second council role as well.
And tell me, Georgia, when you decided to run for council in 2017, how long before the actual election did you start campaigning, and more or less what did your campaign comprise of?
Yeah, I had a I had a nice little campaign plan, but I didn't actually know for sure if I was going to run. I was kind of just seeing the lay of the land, seeing who else was running in our area, who else was interested. I was encouraging lots of other people to run for council, telling everyone that everyone should do it at least once. And maybe not everyone, but I still kind of believe that it's really, you know, great to get involved. So my campaign, I sort of was humming and hawing about it for a few months prior to the nominations closing in early September. So it was probably started really maybe August, really with a plan. So not a long time before the election.
And what did you do? Did you door knock, or did you put out ads, or how did you go about it? You said that you were involved with the resident associations beforehand, so you probably knew a few people.
Yeah, not a resident association, but some other community groups in our area. And I had been through my business. I knew a lot of people in the area too, and through, you know, volunteer commitments through my children's school and in our area, you get to know a lot of people, sure. And that was very helpful. When people aren't often always that engaged with local government elections, so so one strategy was just to have a name or a face that people in the local area might recognise. I did door knock. That was great. That's still the best thing. People really like to have a chat about their local area. They are really passionate about it. I had some lovely friends in the area that had a corfloat, a poster of my face in their front yards for 6 weeks, which is a bit scary, a bit confronting the first time you do it. But then the third time your face gets blown off a fence by a wind and goes rolling down the street, you kind of get a bit over it. Like, oh, it's just my head rolling down the street. Door knocking, I had a little ad that I did with a friend who was running in another ward. We did a little ad, but that was really expensive, so I didn't spend a lot of money on my campaign. So some leaflets, some corflutes, and some door knocking.
But the door knocking takes quite a bit of time, so it
really
might
does.
it might not be direct money that you put at it, but the time that you spend doing it, I think, is the big thing.
It does, and I won't lie, I've not knocked on the door of every single house in my ward, but there were some areas that I didn't know well. I certainly focused on those to learn more about, meet the people in that area and find out more about the issues. And actually you learn a lot just by walking the streets in your neighbourhood about what goes on in the area.
What would you say, what was about the percentage of people that opened the doors for you when you knocked?
Oh, it depends when you did it. So I just did it like an hour or two most days of the week after I finished work, in that little sort of sweet spot when people are home from school and before they're, getting their kids into bed, I suppose, in the afternoons. I found that in our neighbourhood quite a good time. There's quite a lot of people home during the day at that time, but I guess every neighbourhood is different. How many people open the door? I didn't keep stats on that, so maybe I'd say a quarter.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, so every fourth house that you're knocking on, you'll get somebody to speak to.
Yeah, and everywhere else, I'll just leave a flyer behind with my contact details to let people know that I'd been around, so that when election time came, at least people had a chance to reach out and have a chat if they wanted to. Then
you're not a strange face.
Correct.
And tell me, Giorgia, what made you run for council initially?
I don't really know. I was always interested in what was going on in our local area, because it's your neighbourhood and you get involved in things. Like I said, I was trying to encourage other people to run, because our council had been through a period of renewal, and it was a sense it was time for change and new faces on council. So I think that was part of the mood of what was going on at that time, and why I was elected as well. Why I ran, I just saw I had some involvement with the council through my business, and got interested in lots of the issues that had been coming up at council meetings, and started to think about what decisions I would like to see made in our council. And I just thought there was an opportunity to have some changes in our area.
And how have you found being a councillor? Was it all that you'd expected it to be before you came on board versus when you were on board?
I mean, completely different. The night I was elected, by a very narrow margin, I will say, and I did not go into it expecting to be elected, thinking really I had nothing to lose. Well, we're not going to spend a lot of money on it, but just give it a shot. I was handed this book, and it just had all these appointments in it for the first month of like meetings, and it was just like, clear everything, this is what I'm doing now. So I guess from the first day that was a bit of a shock in terms of the time commitment, but we are well supported by our administration. Like, we know what's coming up, we know where to go. We generally quite well prepared for those things, so we do have some support, but it was a big shock, I think. And in terms of making decisions, I guess I went into council with a few things that I wanted to have an influence on, but what comes up to at council is everything. All sorts of, as planning in all sorts of areas, parking, trees, things about shopping and development, and all sorts of things in the area that I might not have thought that they were the things that I'd be interested in. But so you have to be across lots of different issues instead of being able to focus, really a lot on one or two.
Yes, no more roads, rates and rubbish only. There's a lot more to local government than only those 3 R's.
I hadn't heard that expression until it started being, bandied around quite negatively. It's certainly not my experience of local government at all.
And how have you found being a councillor? Have you enjoyed it? What's been your your sort of best thing about being a counsellor, and what's been your worst thing about being a counsellor?
Oh, it's great. I mean, the best thing is to be able to be involved. I mean, the opportunity to have a seat at the table and make decisions is a really special opportunity. And yeah, I think that's the best part. And also, you know, for better or worse, the breadth of things that you do get involved in is quite, you know, you do learn a lot. And get training thing. I'm not a planner. The first thing I did was go and get a whole lot of training planning. Training in planning, and
Yes.
you know, so I could understand some of the issues. So that was really helpful. The worst thing, I don't know. I mean, you could say like the time commitment, but it's kind of just like a part-time job.
Yes, you don't realize how big it is until you get involved. But on the other hand, as you said earlier, in a way, it's also how much you want to make of it, because you can run it as a full-time role if you want. You still get paid the same.
Oh, completely. Yeah,
but you could get involved and go to every person's house every day.
Yeah.
And Georgia, if next year comes around, 2021, you think you'll put your hand up again?
Oh, I don't know yet. I haven't made that decision.
It's still a while off. And one of the other things I wanted to know, with you having a family as well, you've got 2 children, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So 2 girls. So you know, they're quite independent now, although I mean they do live at home. They're also really supportive as well. But so it is easy now they're older. Certainly when I was involved in lots of community groups and you know, other volunteer roles when they were small, it was much more difficult to juggle. That meetings at night time are punishing, but you know, so I'm fortunate that, you know, I can manage that. You know, the transport logistics sometimes get a bit hairy and meal times, but you know, that's just busy family life anyway.
And do you think that women at the council table, are treated any differently than men?
Oh, I can't say that I've seen that. Our council has 7 women on it, so we have a lot of women on our council. Hasn't always been that way. The first woman was elected to our council very early on in the 1920s, but then it was a long time before another woman was served on our council. We now have a majority woman council, so yeah, I can't say that I see that.
Good.
I do see that at some other councils for sure, and in some of the external organisations that I'm involved in. But I think it's that's one of the reasons it's important for women to get involved, even if they don't think they're the best person. Often they probably are at least good enough, and it does make a lot of difference to have more women involved in decision making.
I cannot agree more with you. And thank you so much for having a chat with us and sharing your experiences as a councillor for your city for almost 4 years. If there are other women that are considering running for local government, what would you say to them? Would you advise them to do it, or?
Oh, definitely do it. Like, there's nothing to lose. You just run, right? You just have a go. If you get elected, then, you know, you deal with that at the time. If you don't, it's a great experience because you learn a lot about your local area and meet a lot of people during the process. If you do get elected, then great. You can, you know, you can be there and you can be, you know, representing your area and having the opportunity, like, you know, that I have and you have, to be able to be part of the decision making in the local area.
Great advice. I also say, just have a go. You won't know if you don't have a go. So
yeah,
I'm glad that we feel the same about that.
I think it's a really low bar. You take a photo, you write 150 words, and I think you pay a small, is it $80?
$50 or $80, that's right.
Yeah, small deposit to run, and you know that gets refunded to you anyway. So it's a really, I'll say, some online training now as well, but all that is laid out for you. It's very, very easy to do. You just need to make sure you're on the electoral roll by the time they close at the start of September. Nominate early in September and then see what happens.
Great. If you don't put your hat in the ring, you won't know. Thanks so much. Really appreciate your time for having a chat with us today. And yes, it's fabulous to see that you stood up and you got elected and you're enjoying the role and getting out of it as well as what you're putting in. So well done, and thanks, Georgia.
It totally is. Thanks for the opportunity. It was good to have a chat.
It's my pleasure. Take care.
Bye bye.
Goodbye.